Sweetness for Pride, the Pride Month edition of Talking Books, our monthly book club. I'm Neil Armstrong. Today it's all about you and us and what we all have to share. It's a lime, a hanging out with friends, sharing poems, excerpts from your favorite Black queer writers. What reading brought us joy? And just before Courtney McFarlane shares the context for this gathering, I want to introduce Dr. Lance McCready and Dr. Christopher Smith, who, alongside Courtney, are panelists of the book club, and thank the BGM steering committee as well, Davin Miller, Robert Ball, Robert Alsbury, Lance McCready, and all those who work so hard to make events like this a reality, Franz Brent Harris, Jermaine Hall, and Stephen Giuseppe. Courtney, context, please.
I thought setting the context should be a shared thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, why sweetness? Mm-hmm. And actually, I wasn't even thinking very much of sweetness. I was thinking very much about joy, mm-hmm. And you know, the hashtag Black Boy Joy. And sort of for me, joy and sweetness are entwined. You know, sweetness is something that brings one joy. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, in these days and times, we are countering many narratives. Mm-hmm. And books and poems are very much about narrative, telling stories, sending messages. And so for me, this is around countering, you know, the narratives of trauma, countering the narratives of pain, mm-hmm. And recognizing that our lives, our experiences as Black queer people are full ones, mm-hmm. And you know, have opportunities and moments of struggle, but there's also celebration. You know, there is we're into songs. There's joy, there is pain, but there is also joy. And so I think for me, you know, this sweetness and this recognition and celebration of the things that bring us joy, I think is an important thing for us to do. It's really around, you know, sharing the fullness of our experiences and not always just focusing on one aspect of who we are and the kinds of experiences we've had as Black queer people. So that's my context. Other folks on context?
Is that a nod to me or?
Christopher, go.
No, I mean, part of, and I guess this also inspires what it is that I intend to share. Like you said, like, what we read, the literature that we produce, these are dispatches that are telling us what our futures might be. They're like teaching us how to produce different realms of joy. And so for me, I'm happy to be participating in this particular different kind of format, precisely because we're just sharing and building on a long history that gives us the tools to tell us what we need to do next. Because clearly I think we're all in agreement, it's not been an easy year or so. Mm. And that's calling it mildly.
Lance?
Yeah, I mean, I think this, for me, is an opportunity to really revisit some of the writing, the memories of the Black gay men that inspired me and really sort of set the context for me to come into my own in the late 80s and early 90s in New York City. A lot of them, if I didn't meet them through GMAD, it was through somebody, through gay men of African descent then. And that really changed the course of my life, really. And it sort of saved me and gave me a foundation and a strength that I am so grateful for. And so this is always, and for me, sometimes it's just an opportunity to reflect, revisit, move forward, think what is the significance of these writings, these men today. And so I really sort of love this opportunity. And I think at that time it was so much, I mean, writing sort of Black gay men's writer collectives, like poetry, spoken word, writing in the incorporated to other forms of cultural production. You know, it was whether it was comedy or spoken word or short essays or, you know, speeches or short stories. Writing was so important for us coming into our own and sort of claiming space, making space, surviving HIV/AIDS. Anyway, I get very sort of passionate when I start speaking about it. So this is an opportunity to celebrate and reflect and move forward.
And I want to welcome everyone. I'm seeing some faces I haven't seen in a very long time. Somehow I'm being told I'm not on video, and usually I am, and my computer is telling me I have to reboot to be on video or something like that. So I don't want to stop. So I will carry on, and at some point I might disappear to do the rebooting. But I want to say we want as many people as possible to share with us. Each person will be given 3 to 5 minutes to, and if you go beyond, we'll just give you a signal to stop, not because we want to be rude, but because we want to give everyone the opportunity to share. Christopher will be helping me to monitor the chat and reaction features on here so that we don't miss anyone.
I got my camera. You're really putting that on me. I am. This is supposed to
Timekeeper.
This is about nurturing Black queer joy.
That's right.
And so it's not cut off.
That is true.
Just simply a gentle
nod. Yes, I agree.
Like, girl, leave some room for somebody else because all of our voices need to be shared.
Yes. And so snapping is fine. It's okay to snap your fingers, and we want to be as spontaneous as possible. So I'm not going Courtney next, Lance next. There's a bit of spontaneity. And so we're at the point, welcome, Brian. I haven't seen you in ages.
Nice to see you. Well, I can't see you, Lance.
Well, I don't know
Nice
why.
to see you.
Yeah, I'll try somehow to. Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do it. Maybe I'll do it on my phone.
Thank you, Christopher, for inviting me.
Yeah, and Matthew and Susanna and Davin and everyone who I'm not seeing now, but you're on here. Sweetness of pride is what it is. So, hey, we're here to share. So, who wants to kick us off with a bit of sweetness? And I brought fruits. Oh, you can't see what I have. I'm gonna.
You could be making it all up, Neil.
I'm gonna try.
Just restart the computer, Neil.
Yeah, I'll restart. so you guys can go on and
okay.
And I'll.
I wanted to start.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of riffing off Lance, the piece around memory, and and remembering significant moments in our lives. And for me, there was a point in the late 80s where I came across some of the writing of Black queer men in America. And there's one particular writer, poet, whose work so inspired me. and made me believe that my life was worth writing. And that was Essex Hemphill. So I wanted to read some work from Essex Hemphill. And this piece is called When My Brother Fell, for Joseph Beam. And Joseph Beam was the editor of the seminal Black queer anthology called In the Life, and the follow-up, I think Brother to Brother, When My Brother Fell, for Joseph Beam. When my brother fell, I picked up his weapons and never once questioned whether I could carry the weight and grief, the responsibility he shouldered. I never questioned whether I could aim or be as precise as he. He had fallen, and the passing ceremonies marking his death did not stop the war. Standing in the front lines, flanked by able brothers who miss his eloquent courage, his insistent voice urging us to rebel, urging us to not fear embracing for more than sex, for more than kisses and notches in our belts. Our loss is greater than all the space we fill with prayers and praise. He burned out his pure life force to bring us dignity, to bring us a chance to love ourselves with commitment. He knew the simple spilling of seed would not be enough to bind us. It is difficult to stop marching, Joseph, impossible to stop our assault. The tributes and testimonies in your honor flare up like torches every night. Every night a light blazes for you in one of our hearts. There is no one lonelier than you, Joseph. Perhaps you wanted love so desperately and pleaded with God for the only mercy that could be spared. Perhaps God knew you couldn't be given more than public love in this lifetime. When I stand at these front lines now, cursing the lack of truth, the absence of willful change, and strategic coalitions, I realize sewing quilts will not bring you back nor save us. It is too soon to make monuments for all we are losing for this lack of truth. And as to why we are dying, who wants us dead? What purpose does it serve? When my brother fell, I picked up his weapons. I didn't question whether I could aim or be as precise as he. A needle and thread were not among the things I found. When my brother fell, by Essex Hemphill. And a follow-up piece on a different note, in a different tone, by Essex Hemphill is called Black Beans. Times are lean, pretty baby. The beans are burnt to the bottom of the battered pot. Let's make fierce love on the overstuffed hand-me-down sofa. We can burn it up too. Our hungers will evaporate like money. I smell your lust, not the pot burnt black with tonight's meager meal. So we can't buy flowers for our table. Our kisses are petals, our tongues caress the bloom. Who dares to tell us we are poor and powerless? We keep treasure a king would count as dear. Come on, pretty baby. Our souls can't be crushed like cats crossing streets too soon. Let the beans burn all night long. Our chipped water glasses are filled with wine from our loving, and the beans burnt black, caviar. Thank you.
Love that. All right, I can see myself now. So
there you are.
yes, yes, yes. So and of course I missed your introductory stuff, Courtney, but I'm sure where was that from?
Temple.
Mhm.
There were poems from Essex Temple.
Okay, okay, yes. Oh, thank you.
Ceremonies.
All right, all right. Yep, yep, I see that. All right. So, all right. So
When My Brother Fell by Essex Hemphill. Yep.
yeah, okay, great, thanks. Who's gonna follow Courtney?
I can jump in.
Okay.
And much as Courtney did like to give some context, one of the poets that really inspired me, or perhaps when I engaged their poetry, it was Nikki Giovanni.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very specific because very much like we're doing now, I was sojourning in Detroit, and shout out to Vernice and Odessa. After a lovely barbecue, 4 Black lesbians and 2 Black gay men just sat around and read Nikki Giovanni's love poems. I'm hoping you can see the title there. I've worn out the actual book cover because like I return to these poems all the time.
Mhm.
But what was so beautiful is that we just sat and we took turns until we finished the book.
Mm.
And so I'm going to read the longer poem just so we make sure that we have more time for people to jump in.
Mhm.
And so this poem is called My House.
Mhm.
I only want to be there to kiss you as you want to be kissed, when you need to be kissed, where I want to kiss you, 'cause it's my house and I plan to live in it. I really need to hug you when I want to hug you, as you like to hug me. Does it sound like a silly poem? I mean, it's my house. And I want to fry pork chops and bake sweet potatoes and call them yams. Because I run the kitchen and I can stand the heat. I spent all winter in carpet stores gathering patches so I could make a quilt. Does this really sound like a silly poem?
Mhm.
I mean, I want you to keep warm. And my windows might be dirty, but it's my house. And if I can't see outside sometimes, they can't see in either. English isn't a good language to express emotions though. Mostly, I imagine, because people try to speak English instead of trying to speak through it. I don't know, maybe it is a silly poem. I'm saying it's my house, and I'll make fudge and call it love, and touch my lips to the chocolate warmth, and smile at old men and call that revolution, because what's real is really real. And I still like men in tight pants, because everybody has something to give. More important needs something to take. And this is my house and you make me happy. So this is your poem.
Mm.
I love Nikki Giovanni. I can't help myself.
Yes, yes, yes. Nice, nice. Hey, Brian.
Hey.
It's good. It's good to see you. What's on the tip of your tongue to share?
Oh boy, this is going to be a little bit of the departure. Okay,
Run with it.
so about 4 years earlier, so this, if Chris is discovering Nikki Giovanni, she published that in 1997. About 4 years earlier, Octavia Butler
Mhm.
published a book called Parable of the Sower.
Mhm.
Now, again, everybody's probably read it or at some point come across it, and you're probably wondering, oh my God, why that book? Because it's, if you remember it, it's a pretty, so it was published in 1993, and it was like it's a speculative fiction book on the sort of like a dark future of what America might look like if things go badly, kind of like what's going on today. And so it's pretty bleak, and it's a novel, so but it's pretty bleak, and there's it follows the main character, a woman by the name of in the book, Lauren Oya Olamina. And it follows her life from a pretty bleak existence with her family struggling in a walled town to her sort of having to lose her friends and her family and her community, traveling across America and creating new friends, new families, new communities, and deciding that she's going to, and this is the most important part of it, that why this book at that time period brought me joy. I think I was in university at the time and I had just met Chris. This is 1993, so maybe 1 or 2 years I'm meeting Chris for the first time. And that was a time in my life when, like most of y'all, like I was struggling with some identity stuff and my burgeoning creativity, and I didn't know, I was really sort of like depressed with the world and how it was going, and I was like just questioning and wondering, like, if is that all there is? Is this all, are these the choices I have in my life to be this person and to live this kind of paradigm and to sort of like live in these sort of systems? And along comes Octavia Butler's book, and the character in it, despite all of this terrible dark future stuff that's going on, that's all a bit too real, she decides that what she's going to do is create a new religion. So she decides that she's going to create this new religion, and it's been formulating and germinating since she was a child. She decides to call it Earth Seed, and then to sort of create a new religion and spread it, a religion that's kind of an alternative to all the other sort of like paradigms that's out there, and one that sort of fits her who she is, who her people are, and the sort of communities that the community that she wants to sort of build. So for me, that was kind of like, wow. Not only did she write eloquently, not only did I like the genre that she was writing in, I just thought, wow, here's this woman, here's a character that can create a new way of thinking, a new paradigm, a new religion. And if she can do this, then I can do this. You know what I mean? So I just really felt like, I felt so sort of like empowered by her to sort of create, basically, that that you have options. You don't have to be stuck with what you're given, right? The understanding that hope, that joy, that we Black people are more than capable of like sort of reimagining, redesigning, reconstructing ideas, new languages, new theories, philosophies, and in her case, new religions, right? That can benefit better ourselves and our planets and our communities. So I was just really inspired by that, and it came at a really special time in my life when I felt like really creative, and that there were a lot of possibilities for me. And that's what I want to share. Now, I can't really share poems per se, but in the novel, what Lauren Olamida does is she creates like a book, like a sort of like a biblical text, or sort of like a religious text, and she decides to call it the Book of the Living. And because for her, there's these other great books out there, but they're all about the dead. So it's the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So she decides that her book is going to be called the Book of the Living, Ursi, the Book of the Living. So all I have are just a couple quotes from the book that at the time I took to heart, and I kind of just used as for a bit of my own personal religion. And so, yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, it was, the main sort of mantras of the book is, God is change. All that you touch is change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. And, God is change, right? And then so as she's developing a religion, she sort of adds to, she adds to the book, and they're just really nice nice sort of insightful little sayings that are into sort of like dispersed throughout the book. For one, and they're like little topics. So for example, like prodigy is at its essence adaptability and persistent. Positive obsession. Without persistence, what remains is an enthusiasm of the moment. Without adaptability, what remains may be channeled into destructive fanaticism. Without positive obsession, there's nothing at all. She has little on little sayings on various different subjects. God exists to be shaped. God is power, infinite, irresistible, inexorable, indifferent, and yet God is pliable, trickster, teacher, chaos, clay. God exists to be shaped. God is change. Intelligence and adaptability. Intelligence is ongoing, individual adaptability. Adaptations that an intelligent species may make in a single generation, other species make over many generations of selective breeding, selective dying. Yet intelligence is demanding. If it is misdirected by accident or by intent, it may foster its own orgies of breeding and dying. So, we are Earth seed. We are all God's seed, but no more or less so than any other aspect of the universe. God's seed is all there is, all that changes. Earth seed is all that spreads Earth life to new Earths. The universe is God's seed. Only we are Earth seed. And the destiny of Earth seed is to take root among the stars. So there's this idea that we're not just sort of trapped in this. We don't necessarily, we have the way we can create a religion or a way of thinking that goes beyond, that sees far into the future, right? So there's this hopeful futurism about her religion. Anyway, I'm going to stop there, and I thank you. I just wanted to share that with you guys.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
No problem.
Right. So,
Hey, I could go. Is that
okay?
cool? I love Octavia Butler
Uh,
as well. It's interesting. I think Octavia Butler spoke to a lot of Black gay men, even though it was, a lot of her stuff wasn't explicitly about Black gay identity, but there was something, I think, so much of the way she sort of reimagines gender and gender relationships, and I think spoke to many of us. And I think one of the other things that happened during that sort of late 80s, early 90s explosion in cultural production, I think Black gay men were writing in response to all of the violence and oppression. I mean, racism, capitalism, homophobia, heterosexism, HIV, AIDS, and I think the response was cultural production, which I think is interesting. So I think of that even today, about, why is or why not sort of this sort of our response sort of filled with our cultural productions and not our what's different about this moment. Right, and how we are sort of responding to it. So I'm thinking about that. So one of the things in that was that there's a lot of writing. As if we have time, I'll share some stuff about just some of the writing about living with HIV that really shaped and sort of blew my mind because I remember my aunt had a bumper sticker on the back of her car, said a tisket, a tasket, a condom, or casket. And it was so much about like, she was a nurse and I think she thought she was being helpful.
That's a very arresting line.
I was like, okay, that's a little like more. But I think, you know, response to all the death, there was living with HIV, and there also the response was to, let's write about love, let's write about sex, let's write about like what this is. And I had never been exposed to that. So I just want to read a couple of quick poems. They're one by Jola Branner, who has actually a book of poetry called Lyrics of the Last Born. He's probably most known for being one of the founding members of a Black gay performance art troupe called Pomo Afro Homo.
Yes.
What were you gonna say, Courtney?
IMN and oh my God, it's the Black Women's Collective organized and actually brought Pomo Afro Homos here to Toronto in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
And what was that reception like here?
It was incredible. You know, lots of excitement around it. Lots of folks came out. We packed the auditorium. It was an incredible show. Was it called Fierce Love?
Yeah, Fierce Love.
Yeah. A-Space, Aya, Black Women's Collective. There were a number of us that worked together to bring that show here. It was quite a moment. And we actually had some local performers. So we did a whole weekend of it. So the show was, I think, Saturday. And then Friday night, we had a showcase for local performers and poets as well.
Okay.
Cool. That was when they visited also, it was incredibly impactful for me at GMAD in New York. And I'm happy that I mean to say that I can count Joel as a friend today. But this is his poem called When We Love. It like pins pricking, dreams sliding over honey, sweet seeping through pores of balmy armpits, bitter tongues chasing photographs of languid eyes. No, quick ears, ringing, hair splitting, time slipping through the needle's eye, blood gushing over mountains, sweat leaking from the moon, semen splashing into navel, snuggling up to thighs, no sound, but stillness, louder than a jungle cry. Hanging upside down from laughter, hair lashing, knuckles crashing, all mistrust, teeth, toes, 20, all intertwined, no world, no more, no use to remember nothing but your final plea when we love. So that's one. Another sort of influential, amazing writer, poet is Donald Woods, who at that time he was friends with a award-winning Black lesbian poet, Pamela Sneed. I met him a couple of times through her. And Pamela was, I don't know, Pamela loved hanging out with Black gay men. I'm not really sure. So I met all these men through Pamela. And Pamela was like one of the first people who really taught me about like sexual fluidity. And used to love hearing her and Donald just talk about stuff. But this is a poem called What Do I Do About You? Holy ghost of my heart, grinding my memory, humping my need. Throw your head like the Dinka, shake your arms like the Maasai, a French whore flirting, licking lips at strangers. Been waiting for your light bulb to glow for me, waiting to exchange hard-ass love, calloused affection, slapping high fives, capable and competent, listless and lonely. Turn the blue blaze up slow so I can breathe your morning breath, wet my pillow, part my eyelids. I'm a typewriter, randy and selfish and wise, a sonnet, a beatbox. Serve the next line in your salty metaphors and smoked salmon humor. Wet me with the next line, the resounding refrain of grown men in love. Yeah. Those are my two love poems. I love, so we talk about Black joy and Black queer joy. You know, we should also talk about Black queer love.
Yeah,
Right
that's
about
important.
So maybe the love is part of the joy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Courtney, you have
Gavin,
another thought too?
Gavin, is it Susanna? Susanna? Am I pronouncing your name correct?
Yes, it's Susanna. Nice to meet you all.
Susanna,
Welcome.
nice. So, you know, anything you want to share, just go ahead.
Yeah, first I'll say thank you so much for having me. It's my first time with you all. Found you on Google a couple days ago. I was very excited. Didn't know something like this existed in
Yay, Google.
Ontario.
Amazing.
I will say, so I read the assignment, I should say, as like
It is not an assignment. A provocation, maybe.
Invitation.
An invitation.
There we go, invitation, yes.
As saying like pick an author that brings you joy. And then I realized that that a lot of my favorites are quite dark in some ways. You know, it wasn't until honestly the beginning of this conversation where I was just like, what authors am I reading where it's really focused on joy and love? Like a lot of what I'm read and turned to is quite negative in some ways. I love it in that for me it meant a lot to have experiences articulated in a certain way and to see even if it's a fictional character going through something, you know, that would bring me a sense of peace and therefore some joy. So I apologize if this is not as like joy-filled or super positive. The text that I love is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. It meant a lot to me because it was the first queer book in general that I'd ever been introduced to. And then it meant a lot to me to know that James Baldwin wrote it. So just to have this, you know, because I didn't think Black men wrote at the time, let alone gay Black men, because in school, you know, that wasn't a thing. You know, it was only European authors or American authors, and somehow they forgot, you know, that there is more than one color in America. And so, you know, when I found out about James and then he wrote this, you know, queer book, and although it's two white men, I still always just loved the drama of it, the intensity of it, and just I thought even though the book doesn't end in a really positive way I mean, people who've read it here know that, like it's not the most upbeat. It definitely contributes to that narrative, that trauma narrative, things not working out. But I loved it because I always felt, even in high school, I've always romanticized the intensity of that type of love, even if it doesn't work out, because they, you know, they really love each other. You know, that always was more appealing to me than, you know, everything gets along and things are going well. It was just that beautiful, like that Romeo and Juliet, right? That just very, like, I will die for you kind of love, which is probably why I'm single. So it's, that was the book that I thought of. So there's just a small part. There was a part that I was going to read, but to be honest, I just don't think it's necessary. But there's this other part where, so there's a character, David, and he's kind of the, you having trouble with his sexuality, and he falls in love with, or he doesn't want to admit to himself he's fallen in love with Giovanni. And there's this other character named Jacques, and there's just something he says to him that I remembered now as we were reading that I always liked, because when I was having trouble accepting my feelings for a straight guy, actually, my straight best friend at the time in high school, I just remember this passage. So love him, said Jacques with vehemence. Love him and let him love you. Do you think anything else under heaven really matters? And how long, at the best, can it last, since you are both men and still have everywhere to go? Only 5 minutes, I assure you, only 5 minutes. And most of that, hélas, in the dark. And if you think of them as dirty, then they will be dirty. They will be dirty because you will be giving nothing. You will be despising your flesh and his. But you can make your time together anything but dirty. You can give each other something which will make both of you better forever. If you will not be ashamed, if you will not play it safe. He paused, watching me, and then looked down to his cognac. You play it safe long enough, he said in a different tone, and you'll end up trapped in your own dirty body forever and forever and forever, like me. And those are, that just came to me at a time where I felt a bit dirty. And so it brought me joy to have this person, almost yell at me too, of like, love, just love, and don't be trapped. And even if it's 4 or 5 minutes, it's beautiful, it's better than being trapped forever and ever. And so it kind of goes into that narrative of that Romeo and Juliet love that I've always loved in fiction. Yeah, and so that's my share.
Good piece.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Nice, nice.
Have you read Just Above My Head?
No, I've not. I'm really ashamed to say, when I was looking through my books, I have 3 queer Black authors. Like I really need to do my work.
So that was the James Baldwin novel where that deals with the love between 2 black queer men.
Oh, I didn't know that he wrote anything like that.
Yeah, Just Above My Head.
Just above my head.
Davin, you had promised something hot.
Hi. All right, Mr. Miller.
Yes. Lance is sharing the book cover there. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, what are we looking at?
What book is that, Lance?
Ronaldo's?
That's James Baldwin, no?
No, that's technically, it's Just Above My Head. It's one of the covers.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that cover. Brilliant.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had promised something hot, but then, I got maybe a little overtaken by current events. Actually, I think Jermaine was the one who promised something.
Oh, Jermaine, that's right. Yes. I want to hear from Jermaine.
Yeah. Let's see if he actually delivers. But yeah, so number one, I think thank you folks for generating the idea and kind of changing the format to be a little more inclusive. I like the idea of sweetness and joy because I think, as everyone has said, there can be a lot of darkness, and even in when you look back at the things that you've collected and you say, oh, I thought it was way nicer than this, for instance, but then you realize that it's kind of reflective of a lot of the trauma that we experience as a community, and that's natural, but within all of that, there are moments of joy and there are things that sustain us. So, in that vein, there's been, I think it was Douglas Courtney who sent, it was an Instagram post, and I don't know if folks have seen it, of this little boy in Atlanta being bullied and just being harassed by his own family and for being queer. And, I kind of been trying to follow up on like what's going on, like, has anybody found this kid? One of the things that I do is I volunteer with an organization that essentially provides services to kids in care. And a lot of kids in care are in care because they're queer and their families don't want them. And you know, care is not the best place to grow up by any stretch of the imagination. But when you see the alternatives sometimes, and you know, the other disclaimer is a lot of Black folks are targeted, Black families are targeted. You know, in a lot of ways, Children's Aid is the new residential school system for Black and Indigenous folks. But then some of these cases, when you see what families do to kids, it's really heartbreaking. And you realize that sometimes there's no option but care. So, you know, this is a story, a novel, and let me just make sure that I'm saying the name of the author correctly. It's Uzodinma Iweala, and it's called Speak No Evil. And so it's essentially a story of a young queer, well, an 18-year-old who lives in Washington, D.C. He's the son of Nigerian immigrants. They're prominent folks in the community, and they're well-to-do in general. And you know, he goes to private school, and you know, they're very religious. And at a certain point, he realizes that he's queer, and he's struggling to deal with this. His dad finds his phone, because he left it at home one day with all his apps, because one of his girlfriends at school decided that she was gonna, you know, put all these apps on his phone and start messaging all these guys. And he happens to forget his phone at home. His dad finds it, finds all the messaging. It goes through the usual tortured routine that comes after that, you know, with the typical immigrant parent experience, where, you know, but in his case, it takes a really dark turn because he's sent to Nigeria, essentially for conversion therapy. Way. And then even when he's back in DC, he's still kind of being reprogrammed, and you know, he's super miserable. But you know, they point out in a lot of ways his dad is very willful, and has a lot of hangups, but he's also very willful, and part of his willfulness is around, you know, his loyalty to his family, because he could have run away instead of going to Nigeria, and he had, you know, offers from friends to take him in, but he has this loyalty to his family, and it's this struggle between, you know, his individuality and his need for happiness and joy. And so one night he gets really drunk, he like falls like stumbling and throws up, and he's rescued by this other young man who sees him and doesn't treat him like a lot of folks. You know, he's a young Black man, he's like vomiting, and you know, he's in the middle of the street, and all the white people are kind of just, you know, like avoiding him like the plague. But you know, this young man actually comes to his aid and doesn't treat him like a homeless bum, and takes him into the store where he works, and helps him to clean up. And then this passage is from a follow-up where, you know, he's become upset. He doesn't know if this man is queer. He's like, it's just, you know, the fact that someone kind of saw him and showed him kindness. And so he goes back to the store, you know, in the hopes that he can interact with them again. And this is just a passage from that moment. So I hesitate at the glass door of Sports Zone while mannequins watch me with their hands on their hips and brand new running shoes on their feet. Inside, bright fluorescent light floods over sportswear neatly folded on industrial metal tables. Different shoe styles climb the wall on small wooden shelves arranged by brand, purpose, and pattern. Dark at the bottom, light colors at the top. Their distorted reflections shimmer in the high-gloss concrete floor. A lone salesgirl with a microphone earpiece and a soccer player's ponytail leans on a compact stand with an iPad for checkout. She looks at me, briefly less bored, but also trained well enough to know that my purchasing power is not worth adjusting her perkiness level. How can I help you, she says. I scan the store, but there is no one left inside. I can't remember from my first time inside except for the colors and the cold air forced down with a hiss from the exposed vents above. I wanted to take a look at some running shoes, I say. Knock yourself out, she says. I do need new shoes. My current pair are less malleable after their session in the washer dryer, but I have been afraid to ask my parents for money. I don't want to ask them for anything. I lift a neon blue trainer with red reflective stripes from its platform and turn it over. $180. Everything in the store is 30% off, a voice says. I freeze, like I've just stepped on a glass shard. He is shorter than me, and he has a fresh shape-up, well-oiled so the sharp line of brushed-forward hair contrasts sharply with his brown skin. I swallow at his confused smile. Focus, but that smile. But those eyes, focus. He has seen me, really seen me, and still his gaze is insistent. Do I smell? Yes, I smell, but he has already smelled the worst of me. This is torture. What beauty. A solid frame of sculpted arms and broad chest made all the more broad by his fitted black golf shirt. Collar popped. Focus on what? Straight ahead to his face, but those lips. Say a prayer to slow the fast-beating heart, but his strong, delicate hands to wet his dry mouth, but the soft slip of his nose for deliverance. You're back, he says, now settled fully into his smile and this secret familiarity, feeling better. He has such a wicked smile with perfect teeth and just the right amount of arrogance. I feel the shoe slip from my sweaty hands as my legs go weak. Well, you came to the right place for shoes, he says. How much running are you planning on doing? Here, have a seat, and maybe I can help you find something. Then the shoeboxes surrounds us as he talks to me about running. He says his name is Damien and that he studies dance at Howard University, but he wants to move to New York to dance with Alvin Ailey. I don't know what that is, but I nod all the same. He watches me as I walk around the store, weaving through the metal tables with a different style of shoe on each foot. He asks me how they feel, but I can't feel anything at the moment. Like I'm floating, I say, which one? I point to the neon blue shoe with red stripes, even though the instep feels narrow. Good, he says, trust your judgment. He squats down in front of me to probe for space between my toe and the front of the shoe. You don't want it to be too snug so your feet can't expand the more you run. If you're sure, I can get them from the back, he says as he scans the shoe with his phone. You can pay Lisa up front. The blonde-haired girl looks at me with greater interest when I approach, my debit card already in hand. I hope you found what you're looking for, she says with a wide smile. I nod as she swipes my card and swivels her iPad so I can sign. My mother will ask me about the price. Then she will ask me if I think money falls from the sky like manna. When I look at Lisa, I can breathe freely again until Damien returns with a box and a smile. Thank you, I say as I back away from him towards the door. Out on the street, the traffic has thinned, but an older man in a Mercedes convertible plays Bob Dylan really loud. Buses lumber past, and a young woman in bright yellow shorts and pale legs jog by. She is so skinny that her knees buckle outwards as she moves. No, the world has not changed. Someone taps my shoulder. Damien stands in front of me holding a small white square of paper that flutters with the evening breeze. You forgot your receipt, he says, extending his hand just as a car approaches from behind, setting his body aglow. My fingers touch his fingers as I take the paper. I see that he feels me. Thank you, I say again, and also for the other night. Don't mention it, he says. Have a good night. Then he is gone. I hold the paper as I walk back to my car. No, the world has not changed, but my arms quiver. I unfold it before I unlock the door. His number floats across the white strip, and I realize the smell of dogwoods doesn't bother me.
Oh,
Oh,
I love that is sweetness defined.
That's right. Yes, yes.
yes.
I agree.
I was hoping for that number.
And like what a lot of folks have said, this is not a happy ending kind of book necessarily, but there's just this moment of him kind of coming into himself and starting to find joy in who he is and possibility, and just really wonderful.
But I think this is what is so important in terms of what we desire to share is precisely that joy always has its like nemesis. Someone that's going to try and take you down, and that's when you feel the joy even more. Where it's just like it's something that you can't even put into words, and I think this is why, like Lance, we were talking about this earlier, and I think we're all in agreement because we're either cultural producers or, in my case, I've written about Black cultural producers as an academic, but it's like there's a very specific moment where we recognize the power of it, where it's like we talk about the joy, we talk about the vomiting, all of what we might consider abject, because then we come out of it and we know joy is there, and that is ours. That's something that someone else can't take from us. And so yeah, I'm having a moment, put it that way, because like, because like with all of us, we are like thinking about whether or not we're going to be sharing something negative, because well, what is like a poem or a snippet of a story supposed to look like that captures Black joy? And I'm just like, girl, I don't have 3 minutes. Like I only have 3 minutes. I can't tell you about Black joy in 3 minutes.
3 to 5.
And so Neil, you're on.
All right, yeah. I realized that I was waiting to see if Kevin will pop up, because he has something. Yeah, well, we'll see. But this is from Thomas Glave's Our Caribbean, a gathering of lesbian and gay writing from the Antilles. And this is Patricia Powell's contribution, Dale and Ian, from 1994, and it's from her novel A Small Gathering of Bones, which deals with the onset of the AIDS epidemic, and she talks about Ian and Dale. But I love her writing. So Dale shake his head. I can't wait for it to be over. For now you have to be extra careful when you talk to, or who you talk to, what you say, the color clothes you wear. You hear on the radio this morning how them shoot this poor man on his way to work for wearing a red shirt. The gunman assumed him was a member of the National Party. Ian shake his head. Yesterday, it take me almost 3 hours to reach home from the office. Every one of the major roads block off with old car and burning tire and drums. I just hope them don't bother with the curfews again like last election. Police just slap you with their batons as them have a mind. Anyway, bad news aside, I see the loveliest man at the bus stop, though. And Ian's face break down into a grin, eyes deep, mysterious. Oh yeah? Dale eased back in the chair, arms folded behind his head. Ian stopped and shuddered, voice husky, heavy, and emotions. Big shoulders, face coarse and rough looking, just the way I like them. Him inhale more of his cigarette and exhale slowly, lips tunnel shaped. I was walking past, but I couldn't help myself. I had to stop. Him get up from off the couch and walk towards the window, brushing imaginary balls of dust off gray pinstripe trousers that followed from his narrow hips like a gown. Him loosen the cufflinks and his silk shirt, drop them in his pocket and turn up the sleeves, revealing his thin, hairy arms. Mechanic or something, you can tell. Stink of car oil, tractor trailer boots that drag, for him don't lace them up. Fingernails bite up and dirty. Cap turned backward, shirt wide open, and not a single solitary hair on that man's chest. Ian sigh loud, voice distance. Smooth like baby skin. You could see the waist of the white underpants before it sink inside the tear-up dungarees. So, of course, I had to take a seat next to him. Ian bat his eyes, pause, take a deep breath, make sure his nostrils flare, spit on his finger, then bend down and tub and rub dirt from off the tip of the back shoes and continue. Dale watched from across the room, a grin flirting with the edges of his mouth. So I put on my man walk, Ian thrust his fist inside his pants pocket and start to strut around the room, each first step heavy, and prop up myself next to him. Ian sit back down in the couch, legs open wide, right hand gripping his crotch. Dale start to laugh. Don't laugh, it's a serious thing. That's what you have to do to get them attention. And just like just like them, none of the prim and proper business, them would never even stop to glance at you. And in my deepest man's voice, I ask him which horse was winning at Caymanas Park today. For that's what them do with their money. Pay child support and gamble the rest. But he wasn't friendly at all. Ian's face take on a gloominess as he resume a more comfortable pose back on the couch. Just mumble out shining star or something or the other. What you know about horse racing anyway? Suppose him did start to engage you. Love, you have to grab the horse by the collar. Can't sit around and wonder if and but. I figure maybe him smoke, so I put the briefcase on my lap and start to unlock it. Lo and behold, my tube of Vaseline intensive care was sitting on top. Was sitting right on top. Serve you damn right. Dale burst out, voice agitated, laughter gurgling in his throat. You think him see it? Of course him see it. Those lovely beady eyes wouldn't miss a thing. I mumble something about sunburn or cold sore. I can't quite remember which, but lucky thing the bus pull up and him board it. Dale shake his head smiling. I can't understand what you find in them, Bill look after you well, but that's not enough. That doesn't satisfy you. You want the rough, ugly, ignorant man who more than quick to call you names and burn up your head. But if him nice looking, what I must do? Ian grin. I see some lovely, and then he goes into, I see some lovely color TV on sale today. I want to buy one for my mother for Mother's Day. What do you think? So just that dialogue alone had me. Just that is Patricia Powell. That just had me rolling with laughter, and I can see the strut. I can see the performance just to get the attention of this man. I thought, okay, I thought yes. So yeah. Yeah.
I love the that last part where he says, they're beautiful. Like, what do you want me to do? Like,
exactly. Yes. Yeah. It's from, so it's gathering. It's from
a small gathering of bones.
Yeah, a small gathering of bones, and Patricia Powell, Dale and Ian from 1994. Yeah.
I just love that you were getting belly laughs even when you were reading it. That was beautiful. That like you were like literally like, oh gosh, I need to try and contain myself, because as you were going further and further into the narrative, it was just like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can get to the end.
That's right.
So that for me was also Blackbird story right there.
Because we know those men, or sometimes we are those men.
That's right. Yes.
Courtney, you called me on that I have a type, and it's only because I said that I might have wanted to read from James L. Hardy, and in the 1990s I wanted a homeboy. Thank you, Brian, for like taking me out of that mix and realizing that there are Black gay men that are wonderful and interesting, and to make it clear, we never dated, but,
right.
But it was just like there's all kinds of romantic possibilities, but it's just like, but I understand the idea of a type, and the passage that you read from A Small Gathering of Bones, especially, it's like, what are you expecting me to do? Not love?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's a very radical act of love.
That's right.
There.
Mhm.
And you know what I really liked about and there's because there's a couple themes going on, right, where it's, even though we're having, what I really like right now is that I get to see Black gay men's faces. Like, I'm more sort of like happy just to, I know you guys are reading me beautiful lines, but I'm just really happy to see you guys. Like, because I don't get to see that often. I really want to thank you guys, Neil and Chris and Lance, for organizing this. It's just been a joy. But like how we're always, we have to, we notice how we laugh. Like, the narrative is kind of, we're, as gay men, we're flirting with disaster, right? We're like flirting with, there's obviously an underlying current of violence, but we know that there's no point in following that, or you know, feeling those negative feelings. We're gonna laugh about it because we have to. Like, it has to, you know, you gotta laugh, because if you laugh, you're gonna be crying. If you don't laugh, you're gonna be crying, right? And so again, even though there's like this undercurrent, like at the same time as when Neil is doing that, I'm like, oh my God, is he gonna be okay? I mean, is there, because, you know, is he gonna be fine? Is he gonna make it off that bus? Is there gonna be something even more violent that happens in Dalian's narrative as well? But it doesn't matter, because we have to do this. We've got to find our joy and love and take the risks, right? It's great.
Yes. I know that what was it, Lance, who said if he gets a chance to read something else. So so there are opportunities to share more if you have more to share.
You know, there is one poem like related to this. I see it as a classic. I always say to myself all the time, like, je ne regrette rien. You know, I always.
David Frechette.
David Frechette. That is like it's the poem that both the title and what it's about always, like, this is like one of my, when anybody's trying to make me feel guilty or about who I am. And this poem also, for me, it really just, I was telling you earlier about my aunt basically saying HIV and AIDS is a death sentence. This really reframed it to Black gay men living with HIV. Many of them are like the rebels. They are the people that sort of are really showing us how to live life, even though we're saying that they're the ones that are really representing death. So in this poem, Frechette says, it's called Non Je regrette rien. I don't regret anything. Sister Chitlin, Brother Neckbone, and several of their oxymoron minions circle around my sick room, swathed in paper surgical gowns, brandishing crosses, clutching Bibles. God, please don't let them sing hymns, pestering me to recant the wicked ways that brought me here. Renounce your sins and return to Jesus, shouts one of the zealous flock. The truth is, I never left him. I reply with a finger snap. Don't you wish you'd chosen a normal lifestyle? Sister, for me, I'm sure that I did. Let the congregation work overtime for my 11th hour conversion. Their futile efforts fortify my unrepentant resolve. Though my body be racked by capricious pains and fevers, I'm not even about to yield to fashionable gay Black temptation. Mother Piaf's second greatest hit title is taped to the inside of my brain and silently repeated like a mantra, non je regrette rien. I don't regret the hot Latino boxer I made love to on Riverside Drive prior to Washington March. I don't regret wild Jersey nights spent in the arms of conflicted satyrs. I don't regret late night and early AM encounters with world-class insatiables. My only regrets are being ill, bedridden, and having no boyfriend to pray over me, and that now I'll never see Europe or my African homeland except in photos or in a book or a magazine. Engraved on my tombstone, here sleeps a happy Black faggot who lived to love and died with no guilt. No, I regret nothing of the gay life I've led, and there's no way in heaven or hell I'll let anyone make me.
Like,
Ooh, I love that.
David was a wonderful man. And he actually inspired a poem I wrote entitled David.
really?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Do
And
you
I talk.
do you have it there to share?
No,
Okay,
I don't. I mean, I remember parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
So talking books becomes
Yeah.
talking poems.
Yeah. I don't think I can
know,
get
right?
through
No,
all of
because
it.
ultimately, like, so what inspired? Because like I myself, like I'm
Yeah.
not experimenting. I think, as
Mm-hmm.
they say, if you write, you are a writer.
Yeah.
And
David,
like
it was a
Giovanni is exactly like one of the first people where it's just kind of like, it's not about what you put down, it's about how the very fact that you put it down.
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
If you put
Yeah.
it down, it will take its own shape. And
Mhm.
so it's just like what inspired you to write write a poem about David?
um he was one of the Black queer men that I met um here in Toronto, but also when I had spent time in New York, who was just vibrant and just alive and just fabulous and completely themselves, all themselves everywhere they went. And one of the first men that I knew who died of AIDS. And so when I heard it was him, there was another man that I also knew, both American, and it hearing about his death made me think about him. And I was remembering, a moment that I had spent some time with him. And he showed me these, I call them penis Polaroids. So the poem is about David and his penis Polaroids. Yeah. So yeah.
I love the penis Polaroid.
It was penis Polaroids. One day I'll find it and read the poem.
Yes. Yes.
I had one more
Mm-hmm.
by Jericho Brown
Okay. Mm-hmm.
from a book called The Traditions,
Mm-hmm.
which was a winner of the Pulitzer Prize. Black queer American, and it's actually a tribute and a reference to an Essex Hemphill poem.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're talking about risk here, risk for love, risk for sweetness. The poem is called After Essex Hemphill. My God, my glasses. The night is the night. So say the stars that light as we kneel, illegal and illegal like Malcolm X. This is his park. This part of the Capitol where we say, please, with our mouths full of each other. No one hungry as me against this tree. This tree, if we push too hard, will fall. But if I don't push at all, call me a sissy. Somebody ahead of me seeded the fruit-bearing forest. The night is my right. Shouldn't I eat? Shouldn't I repeat? It was good like God.
Mm.
And I think it's reference to an Essex poem about Malcolm Park in DC.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also
some of the nighttime,
Mm-hmm.
the nocturnal exploits that happen in parks.
And I'm also hearing like resonances of like when like Essex would talk about how this nut might kill us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like it's brilliant.
Mhm. Yes, yes. We're almost at the 6:30 mark. How are we doing, Gavin, as host of the?
Oh, I'm the host?
Well, I saw something saying you're the host of
Oh, I
the
think
streaming, I guess, the streaming.
Jermaine may be the host.
Mhm.
Let me actually check. Hang on. If we have any questions. No, there are no questions that I can see. Yeah, no, we're good.
There's a whole thing, back to Lance's piece around cultural production, about how our response
Mhm.
to the experiences in our lives
Mhm.
is a response is art.
Mhm.
And so for me, Essex, these anthologies, we can't talk about this period and not talk about Marlon Riggs,
That's right. Mhm.
who did make a film called Je ne
Mhm.
regrette rien.
Mhm.
And In the Life, and all these pieces are really significant, I think, moments in Black queer cultural production
Mhm.
and political, coming into political, I don't know what.
Consciousness.
Yes, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
I hope, I mean, I'll just put it out there. um, it could be something face to face, it could be something sort of virtual, but, I would love for us to sometimes try doing some writing, one of ourselves too.
Mhm.
And the thing I liked about that time was, I mean, I went on many a retreat and, or an afternoon where someone in the community would just sort of lead us through a bunch of exercises and we'd write stuff and we'd read it at the end. And it wasn't like you had to be like the famous writer. It was just, it was literally, you are a writer because you were writing about your life, and that was it.
Mhm.
It wasn't pretentious. There wasn't judgment in a lot of these spaces. It was just the goal was for us to just sort of write about our lives and sort of share it. So I think that's still sort of a possibility or appropriate today. I mean, it's not like, it's not the same thing as just being like critique or,
Mhm.
or I don't even know if, I mean, it may be, but I don't think that what has to bring us into it. It's more like another form, because BGMN is really about community, and we're about sort of building community.
Mhm.
And the writing was, a lot of it was about building community. Really. It wasn't to try to turn everybody into these professional writers, or even it was really for us to share, sort of go deeper, learn more about ourselves, sort of explore our identities, anyway, so.
Mhm. Mhm.
Brian, I'm looking at you and I'm just kind of like, I know you got something to say.
Oh no, I
Hey,
didn't.
no, I mean, no, just because like Lance, as you were talking, especially about the value of like retreats
Mhm.
as kind of like a way to ensure that we keep on maintaining the cultural production
Mhm.
and what sorts of supportive networks that people have. And I know that Brian has wonderfully gone through this process, and I was wondering if you could share some of that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I was went on a retreat a few years back thanks to you, Chris. You gave me the heads up about the application for the Lambda Writers Retreat program. I went to LA for a week-long intensive workshop retreat, and it was for queer men and women. It was just amazing. When Lance is talking about that, I just, it was one of the most valuable experiences I've ever had, and you can't underscore like the value of like us coming, like queer folk coming together to talk about their writing and the work that they're doing. I'm lucky that I always had Chris to bounce all my stuff off and like just sort of like, you know what I mean? Because we do need community to do that sort of stuff, and I'm lucky that I've had the opportunity to do that. So yeah, anyway. And because of it, I've continued to write. I've continued to kind of flourish in that, to keep going up until this day, and to still like I've moved my I've tried to now become sort of published in the States. So I just got published by this wonderful publication house called Genre Urban Arts. They're
Congratulations.
Thank you. They're like a Black arts collective and multidisciplinary. They have like this really amazing site. You guys should check it out, Genre Urban Arts. And they published a really great poem of mine that I was inspired to write because I went out with Chris one night. We watched a movie together, and then I wrote this great poem.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah, yes, and you don't remember this, but we watched one of the second installation of, or I think it was a documentary on the ballroom scene. I don't know if you remember it. And
Oh yeah,
the Inside Out Collective, and it was a very great night. And again, it was another one of those examples or experiences where I was amongst a bunch of amazing queer and Black folk, and I was like, it was bread and butter, right? And so, and I wrote a beautiful poem, and it's gotten a lot of mileage, and I'm really happy about it.
Are you gonna read it?
I could read it.
Of course. After all that, you best read it. Oh, coconut drops.
Oh, what? Had I known that.
Ooh, wait, is that a chocolate chip cookie?
What are you having, Davin?
Nice,
This is the book.
nice. That's the
Bulla.
that's the book.
That's the book that I just was published.
Oh, very good. Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
By Genre Urban Arts. They're really nice, and it's actually, if you look at it, you can order it. If you look at it, they've got some really beautiful
Yes.
amazing Black sort of like photography as well. And so anyway, the poem I wrote was called Before Ballroom, and it's just, for me, a poem again about community, right? So for me, coming of age, of queer age, that was done in the clubs. That's where I met, coming to Toronto, going out and dancing to house music with, and like tearing up the dance floor with Chris and all my Black gay friends and all that kind of stuff. That to me was another form of community, of coming together and of communing. And so I was inspired. I'm inspired by that space and house music. So that was their sort of like genre, like their theme. So this poem is called Before Ballroom, and I dedicated it to a woman in the documentary called Gia Love. So before ballroom. Who was I before ballroom? The flop to the ground, the drum, the pound of the bass, the beating of my flesh, and the demands of that sweaty, sweet sound. I am the sis and the boom, the vapors and the swoon, the promise of the come soon. Where was I before ballroom? At the edge of my youth, the end of my rage, tightly coiled and waiting to unfurl. Girl, you know, the wanting so bad out of this cage, for the drop kick and the fall back to death and rebirth of an age, a body in exquisite disarray and limbs splayed. I know my people will catch me when I fall, for this is not a suicide. We always attempt, we respond to the call. What was I before ballroom? A perfect story inside my head, one where I'm not dead. The dread of daddy knowing, the street and the cred. Thank you.
Oh,
Very nice, very nice, very nice. Yes.
I was like,
You were waiting for more.
Thank you guys.
It's just
Susanna, anything you want to add?
I love it. I loved your poem.
Mhm, mhm.
But sorry, what was it in again?
So yeah, it was in this, they call it, it's an anthology called House. It's apparently their second volume or their second edition, and it's by an organization called Genre Urban Arts. So they have a really nice little snazzy website. They offer poetry workshops and products because Black people have to get hip and happening and online and and marketing and stuff like that. So, and it was really nice to just feel a part of a larger kind of community, right? America is so much larger, as you guys know, as academics. So, yeah. So thank you guys for allowing me to share that. Really appreciate it.
Brilliant.
No, thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
Thank you. It was
This
beautiful.
was a gift.
I love that. Where was I before ballroom?
Right?
That's
Yeah.
that's
and-
a
and-
good. We should use that. That's a good
Title?
intro to an intergenerational conversation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
gonna do that. We're gonna
Mhm.
have you say something and use that poem.
Mhm,
Sure. Anytime. And you can use me anytime.
mhm. Yeah.
For sure.
So there've been a few Black queer retreats over the last few decades. So I'm hearing this conversation, this talk,
Mhm,
and thinking about, you know, the possibility of retreats,
mhm,
and the possibility of having sessions that might focus on writing or other kind of creative expression.
mhm.
So I'm throwing that out there, BGMNOPQRST.
I don't think that was shady, but
Yes, yes,
Well,
yes.
y'all are just throwing things. It's like,
What's that?
I see you. I see
As things are opening up, there are all these possibilities. Yeah.
GMNOQ
Yeah.
P.
And yeah, and having experienced them, we did one in Aya,
Yeah.
a small group of us, and they were really memorable and impactful weekends for the folks who were there. And we also had men and women retreating a couple of years. We did Grindstone, and again, the connections, the kind of the reflection, introspection, but also community building that happens is just, I mean, there's something that happens in those kinds of spaces that don't happen in other ways in other places. So, yeah.
And I want to emphasize that they're not just for writers.
Yeah.
Like I think it's not like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all already are writers.
Mhm,
That's to say, you know.
mhm.
So it's important, yeah,
All right.
if that's the purpose, to create a space that's like that. It's not,
Mhm,
you know, it's for us, it's not just for like those of us who are writers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I should use this opportunity right now to mention a couple upcoming events that we should be at. It's the hot thing. If you're not there, you're missing out. On Friday, June 25, some people would say June 25th, there is the second anniversary celebration of BGMN, of Dine and Lime, in partnership with Cachet Dance. There are performers, there are artists, entertainers, Uber Eats. We will virtually dine and lime and eat and just lots planned for that. And then I wrote something for my blog on Blockorama, and Nick sent me something yesterday that I told him I would share. I'd already written the piece, so couldn't get it in, but in it, Nick mentions condensed milk. And what's sweeter than condensed milk? So Nick says, to my question, you know, about this year's Blockorama, which is Sunday coming, Sunday, June 27th from 6 to 9 p.m. Says, well, this marks the second virtual Blockorama. It will be different than last year's as per changes by Pride Toronto. We are aware that people may have Zoom fatigue, etc. So we're giving a short and sweet like condensed milk Blocko. So come prepared for the sweetness at Blocko. Blackness, yes, has a 23-year history organizing Blockorama, which is a vibrant celebration of Pride history with local Black performers. And this year spotlights a focus on Black love, self-care, harm reduction, and community. Join your favorite Blocko DJs, drag, ballroom, and musical performers at Blockorama. Black is Love. Closed captioning is available, curated by Blackness, yes, featuring Nicolette Brown, Kareem, Olin Ash, Phil Atoy, DJ Nick Red, DJ Pogi, Rosie Monday, Jada Hudson, DJ Karma, Stolen Land, J Light, DJ Craig Dominic, visual artists, Korea, Zakia Issa, and where to watch? pridetoronto.com/watch. Sunday, June 27th, 6 to 9 p.m. So thought I would share that bit of sweetness.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet like condensed milk.
That's right, yes. So on that note, I want to thank you all for participating in Sweetness for Pride. There we shared so much. There was a lot that we got out of this, and I see where Susanna says all that we have read will be on your list, and so I'm so happy that you were all able to make this a reality, and happy Pride, and let's meet up on Friday, and then let's meet up on Sunday. I was trying to find the carnival wear, the gear, but I thought I'd never really played mass at Caribana, so I have nothing to wear, but we'll see. I'll probably have to visit Courtney and get
I was looking around for our first pair of headpiece.
Yes. So
Oh, that's great.
thanks a lot. Is there
No way.
any closing remarks from anyone? Yeah.
I just want to say thank you guys again for having me, and this was a wonderful experience, and I hope I can do it again with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for hosting this. I definitely will be back.
All right. Excellent. Take care, folks.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Have a great
Bye.
week, guys.
Okay.
Christopher, call you.